I was 17 when this happened. It was one of my regular weekend babysitting gigs, a neighbor family just down the block. 2 kids, an 8-year-old boy named Caleb and his 5-year-old sister Lily. I'd been watching them for almost 2 years. Normal, sweet kids with way too much energy and an unfortunate love for Disney soundtracks on loop. The parents, Mark and Jenna, were heading to a friend's 30th birthday dinner in the city that night. They told me they'd be back around 11:30, maybe closer to midnight, and left out the usual instructions: dinners prepped, bedtimes at 8:30, emergency numbers on the fridge, all routine. It was late November and already dark when they left around 6:45. The kids were in pajamas before 7. We played Uno, watched half a cartoon movie, then brushed teeth. Lily fell asleep on the couch, Caleb shortly after in his room. I tucked them in and turned off lights around the house. Everything was calm, familiar. At 9:50, I was curled up on the downstairs couch, half watching a baking show and scrolling my phone, when Lily's voice startled me. "Rachel," she said from behind me, groggy. I turned, almost dropping my phone. "What are you doing up, baby girl?" She rubbed her eyes. "That man's in the window again." I blinked. "What man?" She pointed upward. "In the room with the big window." It took me a second to realize what she meant. The guest room upstairs. It has a wide window that faces the backyard. The room's rarely used, and I hadn't been in it at all that evening. I tried not to let her see me pause. "Maybe it was just a shadow," I said. "Want me to look?" She nodded and sucked her thumb. So I walked up the stairs. I was completely sure she imagined it. Maybe she saw a reflection or something earlier while walking to her room. Kids do that. Invent characters and then forget they're imaginary. At the top of the stairs, the guest room door was closed. I opened it slowly, flicked on the light. Empty, neatly made bed. Folded blanket at the foot. Hearth rug pressed flat. I crossed the room and casually glanced out the window. The yard was dark. 2 garden chairs covered in frost. Pine trees pressed along the back of the fence. No people, no shadows. Just a motion light flickering on the neighbor's garage. I stood there for a minute. Something about the silence felt too thick. Still, I turned off the light and closed the door. "See," I said, coming back down. "No one there. You probably saw the porch light." She nodded, quiet, and I tucked her back in. But then she said something else. "Why was he smiling?" I didn't answer. I just kissed her forehead and closed the door like I didn't hear it. At 10:30, I walked upstairs just to double-check the locks. All bedrooms, including the guest room, were silent. But as I passed the hallway near the landing, my eyes caught something in the dark. An odd reflection. High up, from the guest room window. I walked back to the door. This time, it wasn't closed. It was cracked open, maybe 1.5 inches. I knew I'd closed it earlier, 100% sure. I pushed it open slowly, already feeling heat behind my ears and across the back of my neck. Lights off. Moonlight through the window illuminated half the room. And there, in the window, there was something reflecting back. Not a full figure, just a faint shape standing directly in front of the glass. As if someone was standing on the inside, in the dark, watching out. Except I was the only one up there. I flicked on the light instantly. No one. Nothing in the room. The bed still perfect. The floor unmoved. I walked to the window and pressed my forehead against the cold glass, trying to see across the yard. Still empty. I opened the window a few inches just to listen. Cold air drifted in, not a sound. But as I closed it, something clicked below. A faint sound, like a soft creak. Not from inside the room, from the base of the stairs. This time, I didn't go full horror movie decision-making. I shut and locked the window immediately, checking the handle twice, then shut the guest room door and backed down the stairs slowly. The house was quiet again, too quiet. I turned on the hallway lights and checked the front door. Still locked. Deadbolt untouched, porch empty. I sat there on the bottom step, phone in one hand, letting out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. 10 minutes passed. 20. I convinced myself it was a glare. A hallway light reflection upstairs. Nothing more. I even laughed to myself at how fast my mind jumped to intruders. That's when I heard the soft thud above me, one floor up, then another. 2 quick thumps like heel steps across the guest room floor. I stood absolutely still, staring upward at the ceiling, heartbeat loud enough to muffle everything else. Then silence again. Around 11:30, headlights washed briefly across the curtains. Mark and Jenna were home. I didn't even try to hide the look on my face when they walked in. Jenna looked concerned. "Everything okay?" I nodded fast, said, "Yeah, I'm just tired," and made a beeline to grab my bag. I said goodnight quickly and stepped out onto the porch without giving them the full download. But just before I closed the door behind me, I glanced at the stairs. The upstairs light, the one in the guest room, was back on. I walked home in the cold without music, without text messages. Just my boots crunching on frosty pavement. I didn't say anything until weeks later. Jenna called to ask if I could do New Year's Eve. I said no. When she asked why, I hesitated and told her part of it. The reflection, the feeling that someone had been upstairs. She got quiet, then said something I'll never forget. "That's weird, the only window that ever sticks is the one in the guest room." But when Mark went to check on it the next day, it was open, not cracked, wide open. And the chair from the hallway was pulled up right in front of it. They installed cameras the next week. No footage ever showed a break-in, no one on the lawn, no motion alerts, just one shot. One still image from the guest room cam recorded early that morning, around 20:13 a.m. The camera faced the room. The window caught a partial reflection of someone standing near the wall, not facing the camera, not moving, and not walking in or out. Just already there. This happened 4 years ago, during my last year of high school. I had just started babysitting consistently for this family that moved into one of those newer homes on the edge of town. You know, the ones with big open layouts, polished floors, and just enough house to feel too quiet when you're alone in it. The family had one son, Max. He was 7, more into Roblox than trouble. His parents were both doctors. Busy, kind, definitely the type A mental checklist people. I liked sitting for them. They left detailed written notes, labeled remotes, left dinner money, all of it. Once or twice a month, they'd go to a late charity event, and I'd sleep over so Max wouldn't be alone if they were out past midnight. He'd be in bed by 9, and I'd camp out in the guest room until morning. Easy money for doing hardly anything. On the night I'm talking about, it was snowing, soft but steady, enough to keep most people home. They left around 16:30. Max finished homework, we had pizza, and he was in bed without a single complaint by 18:40. The house was warm, and I remember thinking, I wish all babysitting gigs were this easy. I curled up on the sectional, turned the lights down, and put on a movie. Somewhere around 115, I heard a strange creak above my head. That's what made it weird. The fact that this was a single-story house, no upstairs. I paused the movie and listened. Nothing. Could have been the settling of snow on the roof or insulation expanding. Houses make noises, right? Still, I got up and walked through the rooms just to be safe. Max was sound asleep, doors all locked, fireplace crackling soft in the background. The only thing that stood out was how still the back corner of the house felt. Colder somehow. That hallway led to the garage entry, laundry room, and a separate storage space between them. A door I'd never seen open. It was small. One of those 3/4-height panels flush with the baseboard. You'd miss it if you weren't looking. That night, it was ever so slightly open. I crouched down and saw the latch was undone, but the door itself only open a few inches. Just blackness inside. At first I assumed it led under the house, maybe a water shutoff or pipe access, until something dawned on me. I had seen that door closed earlier, and it had a child-proof lock on it. A magnetic kind. Now it was unlatched. I didn't open it further, just closed it slowly and re-engaged the slider latch. The lock snapped back into place, all routine. But the back of my neck felt tight the whole time I was walking away. At 10:42, I sat down and restarted the movie. A whisper came from behind me. I couldn't tell the words, just the cadence of a human voice. 2 syllables. Sloth. I muted the TV and turned my head over the sofa. The hallway was empty. Crawlspace Door still shut. I got up with the flashlight app on my phone and scanned down the hall again. No movement, no sound. I checked on Max. Still asleep, one leg kicked out of the blanket like all kids that age. The moment I turned to leave his room, the house went quiet, too quiet. Even the fireplace seemed softer. I walked back to the guest room, turned the lock on the door out of instinct, and sat at the edge of the bed with my phone gripped in both hands. That's when I pulled up the house fee listing, another over detail Max's mom had left me with.
Listed under so unter the VCs.
My phone and another device. Unfamiliar iPhone name labeled Daniel's iPhone. I paused. I hadn't connected anything besides my own. No Google Home, no smart devices, just that mystery iPhone leeching signal. I pulled open the Find My app, not to locate it, but to double check if it could be mine registered under some old backup name. It wasn't. Battery 53%, Wi-Fi strong, location, hair. Instead of overreacting or convincing myself I did what I always told myself I'd do in one of these situations. I texted my partner me. There's a strange device on the Wi-Fi, not mine. Can you stay on call with me for a bit? Might just be paranoia. By the time they answered, I heard the crawlspace door creak. I opened the guest room window, just in case. I crouched by the heating vent and listened hard. Lowered phone, held my breath. There it was, faint dragging sounds, wood on wood, shifting like someone adjusting their weight quietly in a narrow space. I texted Max's mom, me, hey, quick question. Is that crawl space for HVAC or plumbing? Should anything be in there? Her reply woke the silent world of that house in a single line. What crawl space? I didn't hesitate. I opened Max's door, whispered his name, and lightly shook his shoulder. He blinked up, still foggy. What? I picked him up like we were playing a game and whispered, "Shay buddy. Gonna have a sleepover in the car." He mumbled something, but didn't fight me. I carried him gently through the living room, grabbed my keys, and glanced once, only once, down the hallway. The crawlspace door was wide open, and even though no one was visible, I could hear breathing. I buckled Max into the back seat, locked the car, and called Max's mom while sitting in the driver's seat with the engine running and lights off. She answered, sounding half asleep. I just gave her the facts. She and her husband said they were on the way. Eat 20 minutes. I didn't go back inside. Max started mumbling again in his sleep, twitching in the seat. Once, he sat up and said, "The man said not to tell," then laid back down. When Mark arrived, he had a light and crowbar in hand. The police came shortly after. They cleared the house, opened the crawl space, and found it empty except for dust, fiberglass insulation, and pieces of someone's bedding rolled up into the back corner. No prints, no conclusive signs of how they entered. But the scariest part, the magnetic child lock on the crawl space latch. It hadn't been broken. It had been disabled from the inside. They updated their locks and installed cameras in every room. But even weeks later, when I visited just to see Max and drop off a book he left in my car, he clutched my hand walking past the hallway and whispered again. He said, "Don't tell you. I was 19 when this happened, babysitting for some family friends about 30, 5 minutes outside of town. They lived on a wide property line, way out near the tree line, like a little island of house and fence in the middle of rural nothing. It wasn't strange at first. Their place was nice, quiet. Big den, open windows in the living room, motion lights around the edge of the yard. They had one daughter, Ava, 6 years old, full of energy, super easy with routines. I'd babysat her twice before and she liked me. That night, Ava's parents were going to a short overnight couples retreat. Not far, just a bed and breakfast near the local wineries. They'd be back early the next morning, and since it was going to be late when they left the event, they asked me to spend the night. They gave me the rundown. Dinner at 6, Ava in bed by 8 with her usual 2-story books, lights off in her room by 8:30. Only thing, the dad said, pausing a little, "If the landline rings, just let it ring. We'll call your cell if we need to check in." I remember that. Exactly how he said it. "If the landline rings, don't pick it up." I asked why, half joking as it cursed. and he smiled but didn't laugh. "No," he said, it's old. Some spam call stuff. But yeah, don't answer it." Seemed odd at the time, but not scary. Some people have weird rules. Anyway, the evening started fine. Ava asked to change into her pajama princess dress by 5:30, so we had dinner early instead. Spaghetti and juice boxes. I cleaned up while she chased the dog around. She was in bed blurting random thoughts by 8:10, like, "Why do clouds look like mashed potatoes?" before dozing off mid-sentence. By 9:10 the house was perfectly still. Outside, it was snowing lightly. One of those early March flurries that dusts the ground but doesn't stay. I curled up in the den with my charger and a book, half watching dinosaur documentaries with the volume low. No service on my phone expected. No Wi-Fi out there either, though they did leave the password for emergencies. No real need. At 10:06 the landline rang for the first time. I froze a little just because the house was so still. The sound felt scanner loud in all that quiet. And I mean a real landline. Corded phone, wall mounted in the kitchen. Soft amber backlight. The kind you forget still exist. I let it ring. Rang 5 times. Then stopped. No voicemail tone. No clicks. I waited. Eventually went back to reading. At 10:33 it rang again. Same tone. Same pattern. 5 rings. Then dead silent. This time, I walked to the kitchen just to see it while it rang. No caller ID. Just IMKLL. I didn't touch it. Felt like I shouldn't. By 11:15, I had nearly convinced myself it was indeed just some robocall loop or a line glitch. That's when both phones rang at the same time. The landline, shrill in the kitchen, and my personal cell, buzzing and lit on the couch. I jumped and grabbed mine. Answered on instinct. No voice, just low static. Like someone breathing onto a cold mic. I checked the screen, private number. The landline kept ringing from the kitchen. My cell disconnected. No sound, the call ended itself. I walked to the kitchen. The landline, still ringing. Still showing. INSWONGKEL. I picked it up. I don't know why I did, but I did. There was nothing for a second. Just static. Then, who's watching her? The voice wasn't deep, wasn't distorted. It sounded normal. Uncomfortably so. Like someone calm, casual, asking a question they already knew the answer to. I hung up. Didn't say a word. Just slammed the receiver onto the base and stood in the dark kitchen, filled with that sick adrenaline shiver that climbs into your jaw. No more calls. Nothing after that. I went immediately to Ava's room. She was still there, breathing softly, her arms curled up near her chin under a fleece blanket. Window closed. Room warm. Everything untouched. I sat in the hallway outside her room for almost half an hour, watching the door, waiting to hear footsteps that didn't come. At 12:05, the motion light by the backyard flipped on. I saw it through the living room window from where I sat. The way it lit up the snow. I moved slowly to the front of the house to check the driveway. Nothing. Dead quiet outside. I walked to the side window that faced the kitchen and looked out across the yard. There were footprints in the snow. Just one set. Leading from the tree line, across the grass, to the back kitchen door. But none going back. I didn't care if I sounded paranoid. I texted Ava's mom with shaky fingers. "Hey, weird question. Did anyone else know I'd be here tonight? Or have a spare key?" No answer. Locked the deadbolt again. Checked the windows. Checked the garage. Everything locked. Everything still. At 12:24, the landline rang one more time. One ring. Then silence. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in Ava's room, sitting on the floor, holding the dog, who didn't bark once that entire time. Ava never woke up. Never asked what I was doing there. At 6:42, the motion light came on again. This time, it was Ava's parents pulling into the driveway. They stepped out smiling, waved, like nothing was wrong. Jenna asked if everything went okay. I nodded politely, said it was a smooth night. And then I asked her, casual tone, fake smile, if they'd called the house phone. She said no. "We don't even use it," she said. "We almost cut the line, but we wanted to keep it in case of some weird blackout." She paused, thought a moment. "Why?" I shook my head, said I thought it rang, but I must have been hearing things. I helped them unload their bags, had some polite small talk. hugged Ava goodbye. I left just before 7:30, but I still wonder about those footprints. They were never explained, never mentioned. No break-ins reported. But I know what I saw, and somewhere between the trees and that quiet hallway, somebody else knew I'd picked up the landline.